All right, welcome back everybody. So today is part 3. The main objective today is to finalize that lower control arm. I have all the metal cut already, so we're gonna go in and just weld everything up, get everything tacked in place, get all the placements, all the measurements set up. We will probably test it back in the car first, just to make sure we're not missing anything, making sure there's no rubbing or any kind of like alignment issues or anything like that that we may have missed with the whole first mock-up control arm. And at that point, once everything works, we'll get everything all welded up, prime it, paint it, get that back in the car. So from there, we'll be able to just kind of duplicate everything, move that all over to the other side and knock that side out just so we can put the front end behind us. There are still a couple things we will address here with the front end as far as sway bar attachments, the kind of links that we're gonna use, and then also the shocks. We're gonna have to go ahead and pick new shocks and you know, measure all that kind of stuff. But once this control arm's done, we'll be able to kind of just figure out some new shock locations and see what our options are at that point. So we're gonna just go ahead now and just start knocking this control arm out. All right, so this is what everything looks like prepped and ready to get welded on. So now I'm gonna start hanging all these pieces on the control arm and get everything tacked in place. Then I'm gonna show you how it's gonna actually come once we start making these things as 2 pieces to install on the control arm before they get welded up. Okay, so here are the 2 actual bracket pieces, and they'll attach like this. So you will put this piece on here, like this, and then you will drill a hole through here to mount this front piece, like so. And then this piece will come and slide on top, like that. And then at that point, tighten that down, line everything up, and then you'll have to fully weld here and here. The rest of the stuff will already be welded, and then it'll also have gussets that come down here, which I'm working on now to tie all this in together, which will have to be added and welded on in addition. But that'll be pretty much the setup there. And you can see how that bolts in from the back there for extra support. So I'm gonna go ahead, weld all this up. I'm probably gonna end up painting the undersides of this just so no rust or anything happens, just it's all bare metal underneath there. I'm gonna prime it, paint most of it, then put it on, and then weld what I can, and then paint the rest of it. All right, so I have this mocked up in here. I just want to show you all the clearance we have. So you can see this is like hanging here, but you can see all this space around the back here. I even ended up sanding these down a little bit, these little bosses on either side the bolts went through for the factory setup. So I'm just going to show you this all the way up. See all this good clearance in here. Even with it all the way up in there, it's kind of hard to tell. There's good clearance all the way around the air spring. Even the control arm, there's about a 1/4 inch gap, and that's fully compressed. And when this thing comes all the way down, nothing's touching down there. And then this is kind of how it's going to be at ride height, right around there, which is still, there's plenty of room in there. Okay, so now I have everything on here, and with the supports, this is what I did for the side here. So this ties in this front piece here that bolts in underneath to this back piece here for additional support. I ended up doing gussets in the back here as well. So that's it, it's all tied in now. I just have to go ahead and finish welding this front piece and all these pieces in. And then I'm just gonna test fit in the car one more time, make sure there's no issues with clearances, and then weld it, sand it, prep it, paint it, and then we'll get it back in the car. All right, so this is it. I finally painted it, and it's all ready to go back on the car. I end up going with an aluminum looking paint just so it kind of looks like the factory aluminum control arm if it was new or refurbished. So that's it. Bolted down in the front with this big washer, gusseted on each side, and I ended up gusseting in here too for some extra support. and it's solid. The way this thing sits in this control arm, even without the bolt, I mean, it's on there so tight. So that's it. So we're gonna go hang it on the car. All right, so I'm gonna check it for clearance one more time. I'm gonna just run it up, and I'm gonna tighten all the bolts down, and then bolt all this stuff back up. All right, so this is it, all bolted back up. It's the control arm, it's the air spring. So it sits in there really nice. So now I'm gonna play around with a couple sway bar ideas, and then I'm gonna start measuring for my shock and figure out mounting for that too at the bottom. I may use this factory location here, or I may just make my own mount at the bottom there. So that's it, one side done. All right, so that's a wrap for today's video. I am happy the way that control arm turned out. So now we have pretty much a template and a plan for everything we need to do for the other side, which will be a lot easier moving forward now. And also after that's done, we're gonna move on to the shocks and the sway bars, and that'll be it for the front as far as, you know, the actual suspension setup and all that kind of stuff like that. So if you enjoyed the video, press like, subscribe, and stay tuned.